Okay, the big story from free practice 1 and 2 is that Red Bull is nowhere. Upgrades haven't helped them. They still have the problem that's been bugging this team even before this era, which is no grip and no balance. Erratic. The back is locking out, so they have a lot of problems. We'll get into talking about that after we talk about the other big story, which is that McLaren looks to be doing a little bit better on this track. We know that Piastri had the fastest time in FP2 and for the day, followed by Russell and Antonelli. We know that Russell and Antonelli have both said that they haven't found the right deployment strategy here. So no doubt, I still think they're going to come 1-2 in qualifying ahead of either Ferrari drivers or McLaren. But so far, when we look at the data, McLaren is doing a lot better, especially with Piastri. Norris is not too far behind him. I think Leclerc had the fourth fastest time today, then followed by Norris. But I think one of the main issues is that this track has those S's. Those S's are very important in Suzuka, and it's a high-speed, flowing track. And my theory is that McLaren is doing better than Ferrari right here, mainly because the McLaren car is built for balance, traction, and suspension, and that allows it to go very, especially on the S's, which are the most important aspect of this track for harvesting and for gaining time. On the S's, they have a lot more stability and fluidity than the Ferrari car because of the fact that McLaren may not be known as a powerful. They have an engine, but they don't have powerful deployment because they're not integrated as well as Ferrari or Mercedes with the power unit. But McLaren has always been known as a team that has great ride quality, stability, top of the line when it comes to components for suspension and everything like that. And it gives them that sort of pendulum sort of shift you need on those S's. And we know that during this period of deployment, when you're on the S's in Suzuka, the high-speed S's, you're going to use kinetic energy to charge your car for the straights coming off of the S's. And we've seen that Mercedes does well on that because they have perfect integration between the software, the chassis, and the power unit. And even though McLaren may not have that, what they have is stability that comes through ride quality. So both these teams, Mercedes and McLaren, are maximizing speed through the S's, but not only that, the fluidity through the S's also is helping them harvest to get boosts on the straight. And I think that's the difference. Whereas the Ferrari car does better on tracks with low speed corners that aren't as fluid because the Ferrari car has grip and traction, especially since they're using the push rod, but it's not through balance or ride quality like McLaren likes to use, or not through absolute integration of all parts of the car the way that Mercedes does. So they're going to struggle on this and not have as much charging, which is why you're seeing McLaren have faster lap times. And of course, Mercedes has faster lap times. As I said, Mercedes came second and third behind the drivers behind Piastri, but I don't think we should be worried about that. They're still playing around with their optimizations, and I think this is just a private battle between Antonelli and Russell. When we look at, they're not worried about McLaren drivers faster than them right now. They're trying to find out how they're going to optimize their races to race each other. When we look at the race pace, both Mercedes cars were ahead of the field by a lot when it comes to race pace. Russell and Antonelli were anywhere between 134.8 to about 135.2. I think Piastri was 136 point something. So Leclerc was 135 to 135.5, averaging for the long pace. So it's clear that Mercedes has the best race pace. They're just trying to work out their one lap optimization for deployment strategy. What are your thoughts, Afolabi?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think my first thoughts on this free practice session, especially free practice 2, was that the combination of McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari, I mean, there's a big gulfing gap between them and the rest. But basically, McLaren was able to show that they have a very stable platform, aerodynamic platform with the MCL 40, and the balance and the grip was very, very good. And they were able to perform very well here because, like you rightly mentioned, the key thing in Suzuka is basically the S-curves, the high demanding directional speed in the S-curves of the track. And I think with their aerodynamic platform and package, they were able to navigate this very, very well. That is McLaren, especially Norris. Norris initially, I think he had some kind of issues, but later finished, I think it was fourth he finished. But with this adjustment, I don't know what adjustment they did, but with this adjustment, they look as if they are one step ahead of Mercedes right now. Everything is coming to the fore for McLaren, basically.
Yeah, I don't think they're a step ahead of Mercedes. I think what it is that on this track, because this track has those S's and it's free flowing, their right platform is good. But what I think is going on is that the Mercedes guys right now have not really found their optimal deployment strategy, not setup. I think their setup is okay.
The reason I said so is because of, I mean, I looked at their ability to work with different grades of tires and their performance. It appears that their platform is.
Yeah, but if you look at it, other than Piastri having the fastest time in FP2, Norris is still far behind. And also, if you look at race pace, it's not close. You get my point? And FP3 is when FP3 is when close. Yeah. And then FP3 is when they don't focus on race pace, they focus purely on qualifying, because after FP3 you have to go to qualifying. That's when you'll see the qualifying sims in free practice. But what I would say is this: we know that the problem that McLaren has this year is twofold. They haven't integrated. They have the same power unit as Mercedes, so in theory they should have as much raw power and battery power, everything, and Mercedes. But the problem is that Mercedes has the power unit, but also for years they've been developing this car so that the power unit, the way the body is wrapped around the power unit, and the software that programs what it should do over a lap for deployment and what it should do over multiple laps, software is different from McLaren. And that's why Mercedes is superior to McLaren, because in this era where the power unit is important, especially since you have to put a heavy battery at the back of the car. So you have to figure out how to adjust it. McLaren is weighed down by that battery because they don't have the right chassis development to do that. And I'm going to argue the reason they don't is because they were busy trying to beat Verstappen over the last 2 years. So they didn't have time put towards development of this car. Whereas Mercedes has been waiting. We even knew 2 years ago Mercedes would have the fastest car. Not for any one thing. It's not that their engine is powerful. It's that everything is fully integrated. And they treat balance, chassis, aerodynamics, the deployment, active aero, they treat it as one entity. Whereas with teams like McLaren and Red Bull, they're still trying to go the ground effects era where you treat things discreetly. Or we want to have a pointy front here, or we want to have what do they call it? Anti-dive here. With the Mercedes setup, no one thing is accentuated. It's a unity. So, but what I think is that probably we know that McLaren is good at development, which means that if at week one they're struggling with integration, by the time they get to week 3, it's gotten better, because we know, once again, McLaren's brings upgrades and modifications based on what the data shows works. They don't guess. Red Bull says we're going to try a new package, or Ferrari, we're going to try a New England, see how it works. McLaren says right now we don't have the right balance and our electrical systems aren't working. So next week we will make improvements, but they'll be very minor, because the only improvements that will be sanctions are the ones that careful study shows. And because you're doing careful study, you can't make big jumps, because you have to use careful statistical analysis with tons and tons of context and scenarios, confounding variables, so that you can only vet small improvements. But as the season goes on, they'll improve. And I promise you that by year 2 of these regs, they'll be right up there with Mercedes. So, but what I think is, like, to cut it short, like you said, the advantage they may have over Mercedes, or the improvement they have this week, is that this track specifically is good for them. And also probably they have made improvements in their software and their integration of the power unit, but very small improvements. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that might be the reason. And like you rightly mentioned, that they have a very good development trajectory, and they're data driven. They're going to work on their data from one session to another to see how whatever it is they can tweak. And I think that getting close to the Mercedes philosophy too, of having one car work together in sync, rather than the different aspects of the car working in isolation. So I think this was compared to China, this was much better from McLaren. And in terms of raw pace, Mercedes is still the outright leader. But I think they'll close it out, like you rightly mentioned, as time goes on, basically.
Yeah. So let's talk about Red Bull. Nowhere to be seen, man. I think Max came 6th or so. So here's what their problem was today. They're lacking balance and grip, but the grip is not the real issue here. It's the balance. And they will, if the car was having understeer and they made changes to the front, then it leads to oversteer when they make changes to the back, or vice versa. Basically, they're going back and forward trying to correct an integral balance issue, which partly is due to the fact that the car is weighed down by the heavy battery in the back, and the way it's set up, they haven't been able to accommodate, like what I was saying with Mercedes, about finding a way to integrate the chassis with the power unit, with the battery and everything, so that you have a balance. There's an imbalance because they don't have integration, but the systemic problem that's causing this imbalance more than anything is that they've had to make compromises with their balance overall, because the electrical part of their system, which is directing deployment, is directing torque, and is directing all sorts of mechanisms that keep balance in the car, is unpredictable and makes the car undrivable. So that unpredictable shifts in torque, unpredictable locking up in the back, is because they haven't nailed, or not that they haven't nailed, they have a lot of work to do with their software in regulating the way the car drives. During the ground effects eras, the regulation was the driver. And it was still automated to a certain extent, but it's become so automated and so dependent on algorithms and the electrical systems that they didn't nail that part. So what it did was it made them have to make changes in their car to make it stiffer and more stable, to avoid the unpredictability of surges in torque, the unpredictability of the electrical system in controlling aspects of driving, making it unpredictable. So that's why their car is too heavy, too stiff, too unresponsive, and lacks balance, because they had to make adjustments because of the erratic electrical system that's supposed to be controlling the driving. That's the main issue, and I think they need to work on that. I think they need to sit down, figure out what their problems are, and not even try to be winning. They should look towards the first 5 or 6 weeks to solve this problem. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the main thing here is the fact that, for instance, in the morning session, the main problem that Red Bull is suffering here is mechanical bipolar. The way Verstappen mentioned it as like a seesaw, basically. So basically, what happened in the morning session was that there was massive understeer, and the high-speed curves in Suzuka was forcing him to have some kind of understeer. And then I think they corrected this at FP2, and then there was an attempt to fix the nose of the car, and then this was overcompensated for. Then it now led to oversteer. So this is making it very difficult to have any kind of reliability. And you mentioned another very good point. That's the weight of the car. I think they were suggesting in the paddock that it's slightly overweight, maybe about 20 kilograms. And I think it's maybe because of the adjustment due to the batteries that were, installed in the car. And if you look at the way the Suzuka direction changes, of course, this can affect your lap times significantly. I think this is basically one of the problems that the Red Bull car is experiencing here in Suzuka. So basically, unlike Mercedes or McLaren, Red Bull's aero package seems to stall, or basically is becoming unstable. They would have to do something quickly about this.
I hate to say it sounds like a shit show to me.
Yeah, it is. It's becoming embarrassing.
Meanwhile, Hamilton was struggling this week. He said, "Oh, this car's not fun to drive." I thought last week you loved F1 2026 cars. Hamilton, you can everywhere up and down. This car's not fun anymore. Or dead. All right, so my predictions as usual. We'll see Red Bull. We'll see Mercedes 1-2. Leclerc. I'm going to say Leclerc is still going to get the podium in this and beat out Piastri by a little bit, because I think that Leclerc was showing more race pace than Piastri, but Piastri had a fast time. But that's over one lap. I still think that Ferrari is going to find some more time in free practice 3. But other than that, we'll see what happens in qualifying. We'll be back tomorrow for qualifying. Do you have any predictions before qualifying?
Yeah,
how do you think this is going to happen?
It's going to be Mercedes 1-2. I think Red Bull would make a slight improvement in FP3. But as far as qualifying tomorrow, I think it will be Mercedes as well. It's difficult to look outside Mercedes right now because, they are more or less over the heels.
They can win. They can come 1-2 every race this year.
Yeah, and that's what makes everything boring with this regulation change. That it has become so predictable.
We have to start knowing the names of the AI so we can say this week AI program 52 won the race for them. It has to become. We have to the software now has to become the stars of our shows. Did you
Yeah,
see
sure.
what Intel Processor 3 did?
And it's removing the fun from the game, really.
Now this is boring. I'm just waiting for the next GT3 race. To be honest with you. All right, take us out.
Okay, it's been another brilliant Formula One show. I've been discussing the free practice sessions at Suzuka in Japan. And for Mustafa and myself, we'll be back again with another Formula One show. Bye for now.
All right. What time are you going to be home today? We might do something
We'll
in
be home
football
by
later.
7:30 or 8.
8. That's 3 o'clock. Oh yeah, so we won't be able to do anything. Can you do 12 o'clock tomorrow from work?
Yeah, I can do 12 tomorrow. Sure.
Probably do something tomorrow. I see Jamaica qualified to play Congo.
Okay. Okay. 12 o'clock then.
All right. Yeah, see you then. Thank you.